Heights mid-month, July mid-month meeting to order. If everybody can stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next word is clerk. Call the roll.
Edwards.
Here.
Patsatinos. Here. Houston. Here. Kozak. Here. Panzera.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Keeler.
And City Council President is excused.
Mayor Kearns. Here. Director Hale. Here. City Attorney Coffey.
Here.
Director Miller. Here. All are present except for Keeler.
Okay, next order of business, comments from visitors. We have one person here to speak, Mr. Crane. State your full name and address.
I'm Rob Crane. I spoke to you in December with Amanda Turner about tobacco flavors issue with Councilmember Panzera has brought up again with you tonight. I'm not going to speak. I've got a slide showing local support, again, what you have, and also next slide, national support. And a reminder of what's kind of gone over the dam in the last 6 months since we last spoke. A week after I left you, the somewhat conservative, shall we say, state legislature voted to take away all of your power, past, present, and future, to legislate on tobacco whatsoever. There was quite a drama involved in that. Finally, Governor DeWine vetoed that section of this lame duck bill. Fast forward to a month ago, and that same wonderful legislature again voted similarly to take away all of your power, which seems bound in term to do anyway, to legislate again on tobacco, not just today and tomorrow's power, but yesterday's as well. After some consideration, Governor DeWine again vetoed, line item vetoed that particular issue. So for the moment, you can still legislate about tobacco. I'd like to remind you that the main bulwark against this kind of preemptive effort that we fought against with Smoke Free, we fought against with Tobacco 21, was to get purple and red city councils to join Columbus, which we did successfully in years past. So the state legislature has given a little pause before they try to take their and your powers away. I would say that we have failed miserably. So far, we have Bexley and you tonight to consider. The bills are being run in Arlington, Hilliard, Dublin, Westerville, a bunch of other places, but they haven't moved forward, probably because the city council in Columbus put a January 1st deadline on their activity, so people felt kind of relaxed about moving forward. But the upshot of that is our state legislature is waiting to shoot. Well, they won't. We do have one person on our side. Next slide. I don't know if you can read this or not. When I got back from Tanzania last night at 11 o'clock, I'm still a little incoherent from that. On my desk was this note from Mike DeWine. I don't know if you can read it or not. It basically says, thank you for your note that I sent to him. And we know when kids addict, and we know what to do about it. It has to be done at the local level. That's you. I'm here to answer your questions you might have and hope that you will, again, move the dial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Out.
Next, we have a mayoral appointment, the Tax Incentive Review Council.
Thank you. There is a TURF meeting. This is just to remind you, this is the auditor's office and the board that goes through and makes sure all the tax incentives are performing, and they are. We have to have 2 representatives. Last year, I think Councilman Edwards attended. He's unavailable this year. I would move to approve Councilmember Smith, who is available, and Director Kelko. for your consideration.
I would move to approve. Can I do that one?
Oh,
I can move to approve.
Okay.
second.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
Brian, second.
Is it a voice?
It is a voice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, on to old business.
Ordinance 2023-01A, an ordinance to authorize the city of Grandview Heights to establish an opt-out governmental electric aggregation program for residential and non-mercantile consumers located within the incorporated areas of the city of Grandview Heights, to direct the Franklin County Board of Elections to submit the ballot question to the city's electors on November 7, 2023 ballot, and declaring an emergency.
Do we have an update on this? What's the latest update with this? Council Member Houston, you have anything?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And so my understanding, and I'll let the clerk clarify if anything here is incorrect, is that Leilani went to the Franklin County Board of Elections, to Jeff Mackey, provided our language, asked for some timetables, and so we could have a sense of if there would be any issue with the Secretary of State, and he assured her that it would not be an issue. He did not provide timetables, I think said he couldn't do that, but did not anticipate any problems with the ballot language as we had originally passed in our first ordinance. So I would, do you want to clarify?
I do have an update.
Yeah.
If you want me to give it.
Yeah, please.
It was sent on to the assistant prosecuting attorney, Hummer, who did not approve it because of the word primary in the
Okay.
ordinance. She called it a Scrivener's error, and to correct a Scrivener's error in approved legislation, we had to produce a Scrivener's affidavit, which was done and taken to the Board of Elections last Thursday. So we are back into the process of it being submitted to the prosecuting attorney's office for them to approve. And I believe Joelle feels that it's probably going to go through okay this time.
Yes. Yes, I So this being the second reading, we should probably just leave this as is for now then.
I think have the second reading, and then we keep it just in case for August 7th council meeting.
Okay.
To need it.
Okay, that was the second reading. Clerk, go on to the second item.
Ordinance 2023-20, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and director of finance to enter into a lease agreement with the Bobcat Boosters, Inc. for the use of Pierce Field Park.
Any discussion? Go ahead. Did you have? Oh, I thought you were
I was-
speaking. Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, if not, that's a second reading. We'll go on to new business.
Resolution 22-2023, a resolution accepting a grant from the 2023-2024 Ohio EMS grant from the Ohio Department of Public Safety.
Director Miller, you want to speak to this?
Yes, this is a grant we receive every year. The amount this year is $806.10. They are going to use it toward, the fire department is going to use it towards the replacement of a video laryngoscope. So this is the grant dollars that are from the seatbelt, so it's gone down in the last few years, but it's slightly more than what we received last year.
No exposure to the city.
No.
Move
It's-
to approve.
Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Edwards.
Yes.
Hatsapatinos.
Yep.
Houston.
Yes.
Kozak.
Yes.
Panzera.
Yes.
Vice President Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 2022-2023 has been approved.
Okay, next item of new business.
Ordinance 2023-21, an ordinance to grant the city of Grandview Heights a storm sewer easement with respect to 0.291 acres of real property located at 1685 West First Avenue to grant a 0.003 acre encroachment and a 0.012 acre encroachment to said easement and declaring an emergency.
Director Comer or Mayor, you want to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. President. The library is doing a project on the east, essentially the east lawn of their, where they have music on lawn. And I believe the city owned it at one time. In any event, we should have had an easement and didn't, because there's a storm sewer there. The fact that they're now building over that requires an encroachment as well. So we are getting an easement, we are granting them an encroachment. Those two things are necessary. It was recommended for approval by planning commission. Project should be proceeding, so it's really just to ensure that our rights are protected.
Any discussion?
Timeline requirement for them to proceed?
That's a good question. I don't think it's urgent. I think it needs to go through the normal cycle, but I don't think it's.
No suspension or? Yeah. That would be a first reading, then sign that to the planning administration. On to the next item.
Ordinance 2023-22, an ordinance to amend and enact the codified ordinances of the city of Grandview Heights, Ohio, to ban the sale of flavored tobacco products and to create a tobacco retail licensing program.
Councilmember Panzera, you want to speak to this?
Sure, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Crane, for attending tonight. Just for my colleagues, I did make them aware that I would be introducing this this evening, and without hesitation, he said I'll be there, and it's quite a schedule for you to make it, so thank you. You didn't need to be here. I'm sure this will go through several, or at least a few readings, and HIC committee to have some slight adjustments. We noted a couple of clarifying things that we need to pick up on. So at this point, I would just ask for favorable support from my colleagues as we move forward with this. Those of you that were not here during the 2002 to 2004 era of initiating the smoke-free environment that all of us enjoy and benefit from now, was in large part, almost exclusively Herculean part of Dr. Crane and his efforts to make the air that we breathe in public spaces and enclosed environments acceptable, at least free of cigarette and tobacco smoke. Grandview Heights, he and I worked together to initiate this in Grandview Heights. It was a different time. It was not very well received by a lot of my industry at that time. But we pressed on and completed this, and I believe we were the second in the state. We tried to be the first, but I think we got beat out by Powell by like a day or a week or something like that. So generationally, anyone with kids here doesn't have the awareness. Those children have never been exposed to environments, employees that used to be forced to be in that environment in order to just satisfy their job, are now relieved of that health burden. But our fight continues, and the steps that we're taking here are to seek a better future for our youth that are becoming more and more attracted to and potentially and then subsequently addicted to nicotine-based products. We do know, just through factual data, through marketing, that these are highly targeted efforts toward our youth. And as Dr. Crane illustrated it truly is up to us, just like it was 22 years ago, to initiate these changes on the local municipal level, aggregate those improvements and those legislative efforts, and then potentially bring them to the state for approval. Likely not through our legislature, but very likely through our voters. So I'd ask your support. Vice President Smith, it's your discretion whether you'd like to assign this to committee or have us continue to review it as council as a whole, but I'll be involved in any changes, modifications, requests, and happy to address any questions.
So any questions or discussions at this point in time?
I did have some questions, and thank you for working on that before. We lived here then, and I appreciate that was done. I noticed in here, well, somewhere it said that there were 3 locations that it would apply to. Is it Sheets and Alexander's
And Get-Go.
and Get-Go?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, those are the 3 that reside within our jurisdiction. We have enforcement jurisdiction that stretches over into Marble Cliff, but we don't have legislative capacity for that. So I presume as we proceed, we'll also try and coordinate similar legislation for Marble Cliff.
Okay. And I noticed that it also said that it can't be within 1,000 feet of a youth center. But do you know, the Boston Stoker sells cigars. I don't know if they somehow, but that seems like it would be within 1,000 feet of Stevenson. I know it's not flavored tobacco. I'm just wondering, because that seemed to apply to any, regardless of the flavored tobacco, just like tobacco sales.
Okay.
I just thought I'd mention it. I don't know.
Yeah, let's
Where is
continue to
that?
pursue that issue. I don't know. It hasn't been
Okay.
presented to me.
And then is Alexander's over 1,000 feet away from this?
I didn't walk it off, but they would be grandfathered under this
Okay.
as an existing operator that presently engages in the sale of, a retail sale of tobacco products. One of the most unique things that I've implemented into this is effectively a sunset clause for the number of licenses that will be available. So through a series of either errors, suspensions, or just disregard to the legislation in general, revoked licenses are not part of the quantity of the pool of licenses that will be reissued. That sends 2 messages. A, we're serious, and B, comply, or we're going to see this continual reduction in the number of outlets. So that I think is unique in terms of its implementation. A lot of these are being done not with a fixed quantity of locations, but with a quantity of locations per capita. So the number I saw, I think, was 1 per 685 residents, which would give us about 12 outlets if it were extrapolated. But again, this is focused on the prevention. It's certainly not a single answer to the challenges that our youth face in terms of the marketing, the attractiveness of marketing and the efforts that are made towards them. But it is certainly a part that we can play, and something that is warranted in terms of just an age by data that it's known that 90% of tobacco users are engaged in that addiction prior to age 21. So long term, I anticipate the same type of effect that we've had and the same type of implementation that we've had with Smoke Free, and this is the first step of that effort.
Any other questions or discussion right now? If not, I'll assign this ordinance to Safety Committee. Next, comments from council members.
There's other business.
Oh, wait a minute. Other business.
I'm not a council member. This
Okay.
isn't exactly business, but I just wanted to remind the group that there's an election. Same night as our next meeting, or the next morning, I should say, and that we're gonna, I think the meeting, I think just a reminder.
Yeah, and I'll remind my colleagues realize that I will be missing that council meeting. I'll be out of town, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Okay. Okay, now comments from council members. No one? If not, we are adjourned.
Well worth the press definition.
Good job.